Hello and welcome to the Aboutmbo podcast, where you'll learn to master the business of yoga. Aboutmbo is a proud part of the Wander Barn podcast network, and I'm your host, Amanda Kingsmith. I'm a 500-hour registered yoga teacher, a yoga business coach, and a total business geek. Here at Aboutmbo, you'll learn everything you need to know to create a sustainable yoga business by learning from myself and guests from around the world about how they built their yoga businesses, and about how you too can become a successful yoga teacher, studio owner, and much more. All right, let's dive in. Hey friends, I just wanted to pop in and talk a little bit about Aboutmbo behind the scenes. When I entered the yoga world as a teacher, I was surprised by how many yoga teachers were struggling with the business side of yoga. And that's why I created Aboutmbo. Aboutmbo helps yoga teachers and studio owners become entrepreneurs. It helps you to go from surviving to thriving with your yoga business. I am on a mission to change the yoga industry, to teach yoga teachers and studio owners about the business of yoga, and to help you feel more confident, successful, and abundant. After releasing hundreds of podcast episodes, I want to create content that dives deeper into helping yoga entrepreneurs thrive and elevate their businesses. This is where Aboutmbo Behind the Scenes comes in. Each week, you will get bonus content from the weekly guest or myself, diving deeper into how you can take the teachings and apply them to your business. This podcast is designed for yoga teachers and studio owners who are ready to take it to the next level. If you enjoy Aboutmbo and have been looking for an affordable way to learn more, this is it. For the cost of 2 lattes per month, you will get never-before-heard content that you can't access anywhere else that will give you tangible ways to dive deeper into your yoga business. If this sounds like something you're interested in, let's dive in. Head on over to patreon.com/mbm yoga and sign up to get behind the scenes now. Once again, that's patreon.com/mbom yoga to get all the exclusive behind the scenes content. I'll see you there. Hi, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Aboutmbo podcast. I am super excited that you've decided to join me for today's episode of the show. And as always, I am so grateful that you choose to listen to the podcast. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Offering Tree. Offering Tree is your one-stop shop for all things website, scheduling, email marketing, and more. They really make having a yoga business super, super simple. I'm going to tell you more about them later in the episode, so stay tuned for that. Now, today on the podcast, I am joined by Mary Oschner. Mary started her online yoga business in 2018 and is passionate about teaching new yogis how to start their own yoga practice. She shares beginner-friendly yoga tutorials on Instagram and also has her own yoga app. It's her goal to make yoga fun and accessible for everyone. And on this episode of the podcast, we're talking about Mary's journey. We're talking about her story with yoga, becoming a yoga teacher, why she decided to teach online, how she was able to build up a pretty big following on Instagram and then translate that into paid customers on an app. She talks about the business lessons that she learned through that and so much more. So if you have been thinking to yourself that you want to step up your game with your online business, make more money, have more customers, maybe even have your own yoga app, this is definitely the episode for you. Plus, Mary's pretty awesome, so I think that you'll really enjoy this episode. All right, without further ado, here she is. Welcome to the podcast today, Mary. I'm super excited to have you here with me.
Yes, I am so happy to be here. Thanks, girl.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see where this conversation goes and to hear more about the business you've created for yourself. And first question for you is, where are you joining me from?
I am from Michigan. So yeah, I live in West Michigan. I have born and raised in Michigan, but on the other side of the state. And then my husband and I both went to school here in West Michigan, and that's where we met and decided to stay here.
Amazing. Michigan's one of the states, I've traveled a lot in the US. I'm from Canada, but Michigan's one of the states I haven't been to. So I'll have to get that down there at some point once the borders open back up.
Right. You're going to want to come like end of summer, early fall. So kind of like the August, September, October time is unbelievable here. And Northern Michigan, I feel like, is a hidden gem because people kind of don't think of Michigan being like a real destination place necessarily, but Northern Michigan is unbelievable. So if you come, let's go. We'll go wine tasting.
That sounds good. I'm in. I'll be there. Hopefully the border opens up soon.
Right. Yes. Fingers crossed.
For sure. And so for you, can you tell me a little bit about your yoga story, your yoga journey, and what inspired you to get into yoga?
Absolutely. So I've been practicing yoga for, I think, like 8 or 9 years now. And I started very casually. I wanted a fun exercise class to take. And so I signed up for yoga because that was like the cool, trendy thing to do, and bought myself a cheap little yoga mat and had some leggings. I didn't know any pose names. And I went to my first class and was hooked. It was a very eye opening experience for me because it was the first time in my life that I had the chance to slow down and breathe, which seems so basic and so like, how is that eye opening? But for me, my norm of living was very tense, very stressed, very go, 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 go. And so for me to take that time to just relax, I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't even realize how tense I was on just a regular basis. And so that is really what hooked me. And then from there, I just started taking and trying different styles of yoga and like looking online and looking at local studios and just really immersed myself into this yoga world. And I was buying books and trying to just learn as much as I could. And we had so Michigan, we have really intense winters. And we had one winter that was so bad that every time I'd get up to like go to a yoga class, my car was just buried in snow. I'm like, forget it, not leaving the house today. So that was what really kickstarted my home practice. And so I was, kind of learning and creating these yoga flows on my own and having different like pose goals that I was working towards and all of the fun, the fun stuff that kind of sucks you in on the front end of the practice. A lot of like the physical, like I said, I went to get a workout. And so that got me really into creating my own home practice. And then after that, I'm kind of taking a very long story and condensing it to a short period of time, but went to a yoga retreat with Yoga Girl. I don't know if you follow her, Rachel Brathen on Instagram. She is amazing.
Yeah, I definitely follow her.
Oh, she is the best. So I went to her yoga retreat in Aruba, and that was a really eye-opening experience for me as well. So now I like had this practice that I was really into and kind of like learning on my own, but doing it just for myself. And then going to her retreat, it opened my eyes to like, whoa, this is so much more than just a workout. This is a lifestyle. This could be a business. This could be my everyday life. And I was like, hell yes, that's what I want. So from there, flash forward a couple of years, I decided to take, my yoga teacher training and get the 200-hour certification and then just started teaching. I was working full time at that point, and I was like, okay, I just want to see if I even like this, because teaching yoga is very different than practicing yoga. But the more I learned, the more, my practice grew. And then it also was really meshing with my life and everything off of the mat. I was finding that I was loving myself more and wanting to take care of myself more than ever before. And I found that I had this grace with the people around me in my life. So I wasn't fighting, with my boyfriend, now husband, as much. I wasn't, when things would go wrong at work, I wasn't just losing my mind and being so reactive. I kind of was learning how to slow down and just take a deep breath and then figure it out with a calm mind instead of this angry, intense, reactive mind. And it was just becoming this beautiful thing. And I just knew in my heart and soul, I'm like, I need to share this with more people. So many people could have such a rich, beautiful, expansive life if they learned these things that I'm learning in my yoga practice. So I took my training. I knew that I wanted to make this a bigger part of my life and have a bigger impact than just teaching yoga once a week, locally. And I was also at the same time learning more about business and online business, like just the reach you can have online, like holy smokes. And so then, again, a few years after that, I decided to take that leap. So I quit my full-time job and I just really devoted everything to starting my own yoga business online. And that's kind of where we are today.
Yeah, that's amazing. And just out of curiosity, what were you doing full time before you started teaching yoga full time?
Yeah. So I was working for a local manufacturer and I was managing their customer service department. So we were basically like an inside sales team. And so it was just, it was a wonderful job. Honestly, I loved working there because I loved my team. I loved the company was small. They really cared. It was a really good work-life balance. So it wasn't like I worked this terrible, terrible job or anything like that, but it just wasn't in line with like my bigger vision, my bigger purpose. And so I was just like, it was like an office job managing, a group of amazing women who I love. And yeah, just taking care of the customer, making sure that they got the things that they needed when they needed them and helping them with any questions they had and whatnot. So
Amazing. And what was it like when you quit that job and transitioned into yoga? Like, where did you start with your teaching and building your online business?
oh my goodness. So it was the craziest feeling, kind of going from that very structured, regular paycheck, very normal, know exactly what to do. And if I have questions, I can just call my manager and be like, hey, I'm stuck here, to then going into entrepreneurship, starting your own business, not really knowing, exactly what I'm doing, but kind of figuring it out along the way. And so, yeah, I basically I knew that I wanted to create an online business around yoga. And I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted that to be. So what I did, and again, everyone's different. And I just know for me, this is what made the most sense, was I knew that I didn't want money to be a pressure for me making this transition because I didn't know how I was going to be making money besides teaching more classes. But I also, on the other hand, knew I didn't want to just fill my whole schedule up with teaching classes because I wanted to build this online business, right? So I saved up enough money for a year and I was like, okay, if I go into this and I make nothing for a whole year, at least I'll have this cushion so that I won't be, just raking up a bunch of credit card debt and that sort of thing. So that was kind of my safety net, if you will, for making this leap. And so I saved up that money, I quit my job. And then from there, I knew that a lot of people were on Instagram. So I was like, I'm going to start creating content on Instagram. So I started making beginner yoga tutorials and every day. And so again, this was my job. So I was like, every day I'm going to post a new Instagram tutorial and kind of see where that leads me. I'll kind of learn what people are struggling with. And then from there, I'll create a video series or I'll create an online course, or ultimately ended up creating an app. So that was how I started, was creating this audience on Instagram that I knew I would ultimately create more in-depth content for them to purchase from me at some point in the future. And yeah, I ended up getting connected to my app developers. And so I ended up going the app route.
This is so awesome. I have so many questions for you.
Yay!
But first, I just wanted to say I love what you talked about with, okay, so I started creating these videos and these tutorials every day because that was my job. And I think that it's such a small, I guess, like mindset thing, but I think it's a really important one. Like when we step into this new world of yoga or become a yoga teacher or create a yoga business, we really need to treat it like a job. And I think that that's such an important differentiation in terms of it, and of course success is always personal, but I'll just use it kind of more generically, like in terms of how successful your business will be. Like I think there's a difference if you are like, oh, I'm kind of just doing this thing as a passion project, or I'm just doing this on the side, versus like, okay, today is Monday, I work on Mondays, my job is to create content for people, so I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to spend the whole day doing it because that's my job. Like really treating what you do seriously and like a business.
Absolutely. And the consistency is 100% when I started seeing more growth, more reach, more you name it. When people knew that, oh, I can go to Mary's page and I'll learn something new, it builds up that excitement of like, what is she going to share today? What kind of thing am I going to learn from watching her video today? And there becomes this expectation and this excitement in the audience, looking forward to the content that you are creating for whatever. If it's yoga, I mean, it doesn't matter what niche you're in. But those people who are craving that knowledge and that learning the things that you're teaching, they're going to want you to keep showing up. And so I know for me before I did, when it was that hobby, like you said, and it was like, oh, I'll post whenever I feel like posting. Well, then sometimes you'll go a whole week without doing anything because maybe you just didn't really feel like it. But when you get in that habit of regularly showing up, you really build that trust and that authority on a faster scale, on a quicker basis.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you have a massive following on Instagram. So congrats on creating that and cultivating that community. I mean, it's definitely not easy to do that. I think sometimes people think, oh, some people just were there at the right place at the right time, but that's certainly not the case. You have to put effort into this. And I'd be curious for people who are listening, who are maybe thinking about, oh, I would love to grow my Instagram following. Like, what are some of the ways that you were able to build your community on Instagram?
Absolutely. So first off, thank you so much. I will say, like, growing an audience on Instagram has been one of the most rewarding things I've done because, again, it's this ability to connect and reach out to people all over the world, people who never would have been able to come to good old Michigan and take a class with me. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
And so, yeah. And the other thing that I want to say too is that there is no, like, quote unquote right time to get started. I've been doing this for just under 2 years has been when I quit my job and then started doing what I'm doing now. So you could look back 2 years and people would say, there's a million yoga people out there. There's so many people already doing what I'm doing. And like, oh yeah, well, I can't do those fancy yoga poses. So, what's the point? No one's going to want to watch my stuff anyways. Right? Well, wrong. I can't do any of those fancy yoga poses either because I'm not able, my back doesn't bend that way. I'm still a yoga teacher, but you can still build a lot of traction without being able to do these over the top crazy things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think too, like just looking at your account, like I can see that there's like a lot of different variation. And I feel like I can clearly see that you're like a lot of your cover photos on Instagram are just like, kind of fun photos that are going to get people into the poses. I mean, there's certainly like cool stuff on here, but I feel like it's not,
Right.
I don't look at it and feel like, oh, I couldn't do this.
Well, thank you for saying that because that is exactly what I want people to feel when they find their way there is like, oh, I can do this. This is something that I can start doing tonight. Or, oh my gosh, I'm sitting in my bed and she's doing yoga in her bed. Maybe I'm going to try some of these poses, as I'm scrolling through my phone this morning. That is exactly what I'm trying to show people and get people to do is start taking action and not intimidate them like, oh, I'll never be able to bend in half, or my back doesn't move that way, or, oh, I have to be super flexible to be able to do any of this. It's like, absolutely not. There are totally steps that you can start taking wherever you are on that journey. And I really wanted to be that gatekeeper, if you will, or like opening the doors, like, yes, here's what you should start trying. Like, here's what to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. And so then from kind of like starting to build this and creating this content, what kind of came next with this?
So consistency was the most important thing when I was first starting off. And kind of going back to your question about creating this community on Instagram, a big thing is like using social media to be social. So not just posting a picture or a video and then not showing up after that, but instead using it as an opportunity and a platform to teach and to help people. So for me, consistency was number one, was showing up and teaching something every day. The second thing is interacting with people, responding to every single comment, responding to every single DM, to interacting with other yoga pages that are posting similar content and helping people there. Really using it as you get started, you're gonna start to get feedback from people. And if you just kind of let that happen and not interact, then there's no real teaching happening there. But people want to learn, especially if you're kind of creating content for a certain field. So I just really use Instagram as that platform to help people in any way that I possibly could. And so a lot of that was like, I will spend at times hours responding to comments and responding to DMs and answering questions. And even sometimes like making a little video and sending it to them, like, okay, here's how you would do this. Like, can you see what my arms are doing here? Can you see how I, lift my toes up when I do this or something like that? And just really giving those people as much content or as much help as possible. And it's harder, the larger your audience grows, the harder it is to keep up with that. But again, even to this day, I do my very best to respond to as many comments as possible and as many DMs as possible. And it takes a lot of time to do that. But again, if this is something that you're serious about and you want to grow beyond just like a fun hobby that you do from time to time, carving out that time in your day for one, consistent content creation, and two, interaction with people will go a long way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And I think that is something that's important to remember is like, like you said, social media is exactly in the name, like it's meant to be social. And I know that there's a lot of it that feels very disconnected because we're behind, these two screens and we don't know people. But I think that as the person cultivating the community, it's really kind of up to you to create something that feels warm and welcoming and where people know that you're going to respond if they have questions and answer you if you need something. And I think that's the thing that takes somebody from just a follower or somebody who likes and scrolls and maybe engages a little bit to somebody who like purchases your product or service.
Totally. And I have really made it a huge effort to make that connection as real as possible, even though it is screen to screen. And so for me, a couple ideas too, if this is something that, those of you listening are trying to cultivate, make your responses really personal. Use their name if you can see their name. Send them a voice note instead of just typing things out. I'll send voice notes all the time because one, they're just so much more personal. They're so much more fun. But two, they're honestly easier to send. How much easier is it to just speak what you're trying to say instead of type it out with your thumbs? Although I know Instagram did just recently allow you to respond to DMs on your computer now.
Oh, they did? That's cool.
Yeah, that's like, I actually haven't tried it yet, but that is a new feature that I have learned about. So I need to give it a shot because my little thumbs get tired after typing out so many messages. But I do love leaving voice notes. And I think, and sometimes I'll get responses back where they're like, oh my gosh, like, how cool that you responded. Like, it's actually you responding back to me. And so it's like, of course it is. Like, it's just another way to connect. And it's so powerful. And especially now, like you said, where it can feel very distant, it's a way to make it feel more personal and more connected. So, but you have to put that effort in on the front end to do that.
Yeah, 100%. And so I'm sure that there's somebody out there who's wondering, okay, so you're building this Instagram community. How do you start to get paid from it? And I know you have your app, but I'm curious, were there any other avenues of revenue or payment that you kind of, experienced as you were building your business? Or did you kind of look straight to, okay, I have all these people, I want to start making money off of this. An app will be a great way. Like, what was that process kind of like for you?
So I initially went in pretty open-minded, knowing that I want to spend this first amount of time to really learn my craft, to build an audience, and to build more trust from them. And once your page starts to grow, you definitely start to get offers from different brands, some of them legit, some of them not legit, for, hey, will you post this ad? Or, hey, will you wear these leggings? Or, hey, will you use this, yoga mat? Or, hey, will you do this? What are your rates? What are your shout out rates? What are your whatever? So there are absolutely opportunities. And I would advise people to get very clear on what your ultimate vision was. So for me, I knew my vision was I want to create a platform and an audience that is loyal, that loves my offering, my style of teaching, and they want to learn from me. And then I am going to create my own product, which again, at the early stages, I didn't know what that was going to be, which is now ultimately an app. But I want to create something that is mine and then share and promote that. I don't want to become, and not saying that there's anything wrong with anyone who does this, but I didn't want to become this ad, constantly sharing different brands, constantly promoting, use this code, use this affiliate link, use that. I do a little bit of that now, and there's tons of opportunities for that. And that's a total another way to make money using an audience on Instagram. but that wasn't my vision. So that really wasn't the route that I went. There are a couple brands that I work with that are genuinely brands that I'm obsessed with and would be using anyways. And thankfully now I get to make some money using the products that I already was using and already love, but that wasn't my major focus. I knew I wanted to create something of my own. So again, the opportunity to create an app was the one that I decided to go with that made the most sense. Other ideas that I had at the time were to create an online course. So to create some sort of structured course that people could purchase and find, there's so many platforms out there for creating online courses. So that was another option that I had that I was keeping in mind, and we'll probably do at some point too. Creating some sort of ebook was another idea that I had, or maybe someday like an actual book would be pretty cool because I'm a huge bookworm. But creating some sort of like digital yoga resource, so an ebook of some sort, and then selling and promoting that. Another idea, I just had one on the tip of my tongue. Oh, retreat. That was another big one that I saw, both digital and in person, because the yoga retreat I went on was so transformative for me. I would love to be able to host yoga retreats. And that's something that I, again, will probably do at some point. But on the other hand, as well as like a digital retreat of some sort. I saw some people doing that. I was like, oh, that's so cool. What a fun way to give people an experience, but also make it very accessible, lower price point, that sort of thing. But one thing that I will say that I did, and I'm really glad that I did, was I kind of picked one and I stuck with it for a while. And so again, for me, it was my app. So I swear, girl, it was like the stars aligned. It's like that quote where they say, like, when you show the universe you're ready, like the universe responds, kind of thing. And I think by me quitting my job and just devoting my full 100% effort into growing this Instagram audience and wanting to share and teach yoga to people all over the world and putting out all this content, it's like the universe is like, all right, girl, I hear you. Here's your opportunity to do this. And so I got a message on Instagram from one of my app developers now. And he was just like, hey, have you ever thought of making a yoga app? And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I've like heard of them, but I guess I didn't, initially think of that. And so we had several meetings for a couple months and eventually came out to an agreement and a partnership that just worked out really, really well for both parties. And so I was like, heck yes, I'm all in. I'm creating an app. And so from there, very interesting journey of just learning how to do that, learning how to create content that's quality, that, looks good, sounds good, is clear. All that stuff was quite the learning curve getting started, but now I've really mastered it, because I've made so many classes. We have like 140 plus classes on the app now that I've all created myself, because I'm like a little one-woman show here. And it's been, again, a learning curve, but I just devoted all of my time and energy to learning and mastering content creation for my app. And so I would say that I think it is good to kind of figure out what you want to do and then stick with it, so that you're not spread so thin trying to do everything all at once, because it's a lot. And especially when you're getting started, unless you have those funds to start kind of building that team from the beginning, which maybe you do, and hell yeah, go for that. But for me, it was just me. And I knew that I wanted to build this on my own. And so I really think it was smart to stay focused and not try to do so many things all at once. Instead, really focusing, like, I'm going to grow my audience on Instagram. I'm going to grow this app. And then from here, like, now I'm at a point a few years in where I'm like, all right, now I'm going to start expanding. Like, maybe I'll try some other platforms. Maybe I'll get more into the email marketing. Maybe I'll start creating that digital course or something like that. But I've really devoted the last year and a half, I think. Yeah, year and a half to creating this app and making it the very best app that I can possibly make it.
Yeah, this is so inspiring to hear. And the fact that you're doing this, as a one woman show is just really incredible. And I think that also, and this is totally not one of my strengths. I feel like I'm like, ooh, I want this and I want this and I want to do this. And I think that there's a lot of benefit in really focusing in, like you said, like choosing one avenue and not, I guess, getting tempted by the distractions because I'm sure that they're there and it's like, oh, I could do that. But it's like, no, I'm focusing on the app right now. And I think, it sounds like you can really tell that it's paying off in your business and it's helped you grow and create something, which I think is really cool because once we pick that avenue and we stick to it, I mean, you can give it some time to see if it's working. And if it's not working, sure, switch directions. But I think we really
Right.
have to dedicate to that one thing. And the other thing that I really love that you talked about was thinking about, okay, so I'm growing this platform, I've got this community, focusing on, selling something that's yours. And I think that this is something that I really want listeners to kind of consider if they want to, grow something like Instagram or, a podcast or a YouTube channel. There's always going to be affiliate opportunities. There's going to be opportunities to represent somebody else's brand. And I think that can be really cool if you can align with, businesses that you really love and that you believe in. And that's definitely something I've tried to do with my podcast when it comes to advertising. But at the end of the day, I think having your own stuff is going to be the most beneficial for you because people are there for you, right? And they're going to trust that if you are wearing something that you're talking about, that it's probably awesome too, or that if you're talking about a product or service, it's great. But I think if you can talk about your own product or service, that's even better for you as a business because it really, gets people to become your dedicated student. Like those are the people who, when you announce your retreat, are going to be like, no questions. Of course, I'm purchasing this. Like, I've been following her for ages. I have her app. I practice with her every day. Of course, I want to go to Mexico or Cuba, wherever it is. Of course, I want to do that with her. So I really love that. Something I'm curious about, and this is maybe something we can kind of debunk for people, because I think that a lot of people maybe want to create online businesses or create videos or maybe build an app or something like that. But they're like, I can't afford to hire a film team. I have no idea where to start on the tech side of things. Can you talk a little bit about like the tech side, especially since you said, tech is not my forte. And I think that there's probably a lot of people that are just writing this off as something they can't do because they feel like maybe it's too expensive or, they don't have the tech skills to create something.
Totally. So first off, we live in an age where we have so much knowledge literally at our fingertips in the palm of our hand using our phones. So and trust me, if I could teach myself how to do these things, you can too, because I am not very techie at all. And so I started very simple. My Instagram tutorials are all filmed and edited on my phone. I was not using a fancy camera. I wasn't using a microphone in the sense of I don't really talk in any of my Instagram videos, so I didn't need that. But I was able to just do it in such a simple way that it was literally all on my phone, just using an app. I use an app called InShot to edit my videos, which I highly recommend if you do that. But I was just filming everything on my phone, and that worked so well. And that was, again, for me, like some people I know like do it on their computer and then transfer from their computer to their phone. And to me, I'm like, what? I don't know. I just want the video to be on my phone and then I'll edit it and then I'll upload it on my phone because that's where Instagram is. And then for the app side of things. So yeah, obviously I do not know how to code anything in regards to an app. That is, outsource the things you don't know. So they handle all of that sort of tech stuff. But for me, again, I mentioned this earlier, huge learning curve when it comes to learning how to edit and create these videos. So, I definitely struggled my way through it on the front end, but I will say it is totally learnable. For my app videos, I did get a nicer camera. So I was using one that we got from our wedding initially, but then I eventually did invest. I used a Sony 6400 digital DSLR camera. And then I would also recommend getting a wireless microphone, which I ordered one on Amazon. And instead of, because I was originally doing voiceovers, I don't think I mentioned that. My original videos,
that's so
I didn't
much
know how
work.
to do that. Yeah, it is so much work. And I remember my app guys being like, you should create a 30-day challenge. And I literally was like dying on the inside. I'm like, do you have any idea how much time it is going to take me to make 30 yoga videos that are voiceovers? It was the worst. And so that's when I was like, I need to figure this out. So I went to YouTube and I just was like, how do you make workout videos? How do you make yoga videos? Like, I've actually been teaching some people myself how to do this, because you're right. A lot of people are like, I want to do this, but I don't know how I'm stuck. So I've been trying to like help people who are trying to do this. Because it's like, yeah, it doesn't need to be overcomplicated. I don't use anything fancy. So I film with my DSLR camera. I have a wireless microphone that works so well. And again, just got it on Amazon. And then I upload my videos and I edit them with iMovie. So I don't even use like fancy editing for the videos, because, you know, again, sometimes you'll see these really like high production videos where they're, what do you call it? Like in this glorious, beautiful studio. There's multiple angles. Like I don't do anything fancy like that. I film in my house. If you look at my old videos, they were literally filmed in my entryway in front of my stairs for a long time. Now I have kind of like a cute little space in our basement that I'm like have taken over as my yoga studio. But yeah, it was nothing fancy. You know, I was filming at my house, but on the other hand, it's like I'm also teaching people who are probably practicing at home. So hopefully they feel very comfortable, very at home with me, like we're practicing at home together. And, you know, again, making my app feel very approachable, very friendly, very welcoming. And so, yeah, I mean, filming at home, editing them by myself, you know, that again was kind of a learning curve a little bit, but iMovie is pretty simple. And again, you watch a couple of YouTube tutorials on it, you can figure it out. And yeah, I mean, that was it. And then the app guys did do all of the app stuff. So it's not like I do not know how to create apps at all.
Yeah. No, I mean, even though the fact that you figured out everything else though, for somebody who says they're not techie, I mean, I think that's amazing. It's certainly not easy to do all of that. But again, I think it's just amazing that you've just really treated this like, okay, this is my business. This is the thing I need to do for it. I'm just going to go online and learn it. And I think that you're completely right. Like we are so lucky to live in an era where we literally have access to any information we need. Like, I mean, when we were little, like, do you remember your parents like having encyclopedias and stuff?
I was just going to say that. You'd have to like flip open to the encyclopedia page of like, how do I do this? What's this? Yeah, like for sure. We had the encyclopedia set at our house.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't, there was not YouTube. I mean, there's really no excuse. And I don't want to say that. That's a little tough love, but there's literally no excuse not to learn anything that you need to learn. Anything that you are being stuck on, I can guarantee there's a YouTube video teaching you how to fix whatever your problem is. And it's free. Like that is the other piece. I think and I'm guilty of this as well. Here I sit on my high horse. Trust me. There were days that I was like head on the keyboard crying, like, why the F am I doing this? I don't know what I'm doing. Why isn't this working? Pissed off because I bought the wrong piece of equipment that's not returnable and I'm stuck with it and it didn't do what I needed it to do. I mean, I had moments like that. And, you know, thankfully, I thank God every day. Like I have the most supportive husband who also has a little touch of tough love, who is like, Mary, use the internet, like literally Google it. And it's so obvious. And it's obvious to me now because as you create anything new, as you learn any new skill, you get stuck, you have to learn and figure it out. But I definitely had my moments where I was like, how do I do this? Like pulling my hair out. And I was able to figure everything out. And again, not techie. Like it's not rocket scientist. I think it can seem very overwhelming when you look at the big picture. But when you start breaking it down into like, okay, what do I need to do? Okay, I need, to set my camera up straight on my tripod. All right, check. I need to record and make sure that I have enough space on my memory card to record. Check. Okay. I need to make sure that the audio is coming in clear and that they can hear what I'm saying. Check. Okay, now I need to edit out the first part. I need to edit out, the second part. Okay, how do I clip out a section of this video? Again, YouTube, learn how to do it, check. Like it really, when you take it just step by step like that, it really is not rocket science. But when you just look at the big picture, like, oh my gosh, creating 140 yoga classes on an app, like, I don't know how to do that. So you just kind of wipe your hands. Nope, not going to do it. I don't know what I'm doing. It is very easy to get sucked into that, but it is absolutely doable. And again, if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've definitely had similar struggles to you and can relate to everything you're talking about, like just feeling so overwhelmed by the equipment and the software and then doing something wrong. I remember my husband and I co-host a travel podcast together, and that was kind of my first I guess, online business experience. And like, I had no idea how to create a podcast. We had no finances to hire somebody. I mean, I did our first logo, I built our first website. He learned how to create and edit audio. Like, we had never done any of that before. And I remember we were actually in Austin, Texas. We were sitting at a cafe and I was trying to upload a new theme to the website. And I just completely destroyed the website. Like, it was not what I wanted it to look like.
Oh no.
And I remember like I was on the verge of tears in public, and I hate crying in public. And I was like, I'm going to throw my laptop. Like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And he was like, just take a deep breath. Like, you built the first one. Like, I'm sure you can fix this. And so I, same as you, like went on YouTube, looked up some stuff, got my patience back and was able to fix it. And I feel like, I think that there would be something really great about going into business, having the funds to be able to hire, a web developer and a film team and stuff. But I also feel like that's part of what makes us like tough as entrepreneurs, is those moments where we're like, there's nobody to dig me out of this other than using my ability to search what I need, being patient, learning it, taking it step by step, exactly like you're saying. And I feel like there's something really rewarding of like, looking back at those videos you created and being like, yeah, like I persevered through this. Like, I did this thing. So yes, I can totally relate to you. And I think that it's really cool that you were able to build that and get through that. And I think that for anyone listening, if Mary can do it, if I can do it, you guys can certainly do it too. And it's really like the yoga off the mat for sure.
Totally agree with everything that you just said. And I agree, like entrepreneurship is the greatest form of self-growth and self-discovery, because you are forced to face your strengths and your weaknesses and any holes in your business yourself. And you need to figure it out. Again, just like it was easy at my old job, because if I had questions, I would just go to my boss. Hey, boss, what do I do? In your own business, you are the boss and you don't know what to do. So you have to figure out how to make your way through. And going through those struggles builds so much more self-reliance and self-confidence that anything that comes your way, which things will come your way, you can handle and you can tackle and you'll be able to get through it. So I totally agree. And then it's so much more fun. So now I'm starting to get to the point where I'm looking to hire a video editor. If anyone is listening, please message me immediately.
That's going to feel so good to pass that task off.
That is the one thing that it's not complex. It does not need to be completed by myself, but it takes up so much time and energy. And I am so excited to pass that off and put some money in someone's pocket, and it'll be a win-win for everyone. So yeah, it is very exciting to start to delegate some of these things, because again, it's always been the last 2 years, it's just been me doing everything, me getting the work done. If it doesn't get done, it's because I didn't do it. And I'm excited to have that ability now to start to delegate those to someone else, so that I can devote my time and energy to the things that I'm really good at and that I was made to do. So, but there is no shame in like getting your hands dirty and doing it yourself and being able to do it yourself. Because that's the thing, is like at the end of the day, if that video didn't get edited and it needed to, I can do it. It's not like I can't do it. I still have that ability. And I wouldn't have had that if I didn't have to learn how to do it on the front end.
Yeah, 100%. I've very much felt like that too. Like, I mean, I edited all my own podcast episodes for years and years. And I feel, fortunately, my husband actually edits podcasts like for a living. So he edits MBO now, but and so I feel confident that he's not going to like, fire me or stop doing it or something. But I feel like it's really nice to know that if for some reason something crazy happened and he couldn't edit an episode, like I'm not screwed. Like I'm not left on my own. Like I know how to do this. I could totally do it. It's amazing to not have to do it because it's very time consuming, but being able to do the things that you kind of rely on in your business, I think just feels very empowering.
Totally.
Hey everyone, it's time for a short break from the show to talk about our sponsor, Offering Tree. If you're interested in finding all-in-one platform for online or in-person teaching, then you should check out Offering Tree. Offering Tree set out to make creating your digital presence fun, easy, and affordable. With one account, you can create a website in minutes with email marketing tools to collect email addresses, allowing you to send newsletters and automated emails to your subscribers. It all works seamlessly together with one account and one subscription. Already have your own website? No problem, because Offering Tree can embed seamlessly into your existing website. They're always adding new features to their platform to make it even better. They just recently released a new waiver feature that lets you easily add a waiver to your events and appointments. Adding a waiver protects you as a teacher, and it keeps your students informed. If you're looking for a single platform to take care of all of your online and in-person teaching needs, then visit offeringtree.com/MBO. Offering Tree has been supporting MBO for over a year now, and I not only love the product, but I also love the people. Offering Tree is providing special pricing for MBO listeners. So be sure to visit offeringtree.com/MBO. That's offeringtree.com/MBOM to receive the discount. All right, now back to the episode. I'm curious because, you're doing all of this on your own, which is amazing. How do you manage your time between all your different tasks that you do?
Okay, I laugh at that question because, girl, this is something that I have struggled with hard. So, okay, we'll start at the beginning. When you are starting your own business, you're excited about it. You look forward to it. You wake up and you're like, hell yes, building my business, building my empire, like I'm doing the damn thing. And it's something you love. So it is something that you are just excited to do. You'd honestly probably be doing it anyways. So there was no on and off from work for literally, and I'm not kidding you, I am 2 years into my business. I am just now, the last maybe 2 weeks, starting to give myself like an off switch, if you will. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I'm probably not the poster child for managing your time well, because I would work at all hours all day long, and it would be at a leisurely pace. I had no on and off. So it was like, okay, it's 9 a.m. I don't really feel like working yet. So I'm going to just kind of do whatever I feel like doing, float through the morning. Next thing I know, I haven't done anything and it's noon. I'm like, okay, I probably should start getting some stuff done. So then I'd start getting some stuff done, do that, be really productive. And then like I would get distracted again, or like Jake would come home and I'd start making dinner. And then I would be like, oh crap, I need to edit those videos. So the next thing I know, I'm editing videos until 9 or 10 at night. And then I wake up and I kind of do it again the next day, but maybe in a little bit of a different order. There was no consistency. It was kind of working at all hours. Sometimes I would work very little during the day. Sometimes I would work a ton during the day. Like when I was in grind mode, putting out some of my original 30-day challenges where like every day of the challenge was a new class, I was working insane from like waking hours till literally I go to bed. But then on other days, once I like would launch that, then I like would barely work during the day. It's like, so it was very inconsistent. No kind of, like I said, on and off switch. So now I'm trying to be much more purposeful. Honestly, this whole pandemic and quarantine has really kind of opened my eyes to like, okay, girl, you need a little bit more structure to what you are doing, and for your own sanity. It's no matter what your work, whether you love it or not, if it just kind of is just floating in and out of your entire day, like you don't ever fully get that time to like rest, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so I've been so much more strict about kind of having like an on time and an off time. Not so much on time. I'll usually I wake up very early, especially right now when it's the sun rises so early. I'm waking up naturally at like 6 o'clock, which for me seems very early. And so I've been a lot stricter about kind of setting my morning routine and taking the time to actually do that. No phone, doing my breath work, doing my meditation, maybe doing some yoga if I feel like it. And then getting into my day, versus old me was just like literally as soon as my eyes open, it's like grab my phone, check Instagram. And that was just not doing me any favors. So I am getting a little bit more just kind of wake up, do my morning routine. Sometimes it'll be longer, sometimes it'll be shorter. So again, and then whenever I'm done, I'll go, okay, now I'm going to start my work. I track my work and to-do list in my bullet journal, which is just like basically an agenda, but it's like a little bit more like sketchy and creative and handmade. But I'll keep and track my to-dos for the week there. And so from there, I'll get up, I'll start doing my work. I'm getting back into the habit of posting every day on Instagram. So I'll make my Instagram content, I'll post and share that, and then spend some time interacting with people, filming any content that I need to film for the app. So like those are just a different kind of content creation compared to Instagram. And then I'm trying is the key word, but I'm trying to end my day at like 6 o'clock where I'm not doing any more work after 6, which I'm
It's
about
hard.
50-50 success right there.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you being like so candid and honest with that. And I think it's also, I mean, selfishly, I sort of wish you had this all figured out, but it also makes me feel like very human to know that I have very similar struggles to you. And it's, it's hard. It's hard when your life is your work and your work is your life. And of course, we have things that are very personal and things that are very professional. But I think when you work for yourself, it's really easy for the lines to get blurred. And something I've personally really struggled with is like, I love that I can go, like, for example, I have a social distance coffee date with a friend tomorrow morning, and I can do that. I don't have to ask anyone, is it okay if I'm, out having this coffee at 10 a.m.? But the trade-off of that is that it probably means that like I work past 6 o'clock tomorrow night because I have enough to do during the day. And it's always kind of this balance, this push pull between, making sure that you are doing the work that you want to do and that you need to get done. And then also making sure that there is some balance. And my husband and I both work from home. So we've been, despite the fact that like it is very different, but it's also not that different in quarantine. We've really been trying to like almost give ourselves like a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. And it's been hard. It's been very hard.
It's so hard. I know I'm like mind blown. And I'm also noticing, so I just got off before we're talking, I just got off of a meeting with my app developers. And I was like, you guys, I'm so sorry. I was like, I've been giving myself weekends off. And there were a couple tasks that they needed me to do, and I just haven't done them yet. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you guys. I'm like, I'm giving myself weekends, and I'm realizing like, okay, I used to get so much done on the weekends because there kind of was no weekend for me. It was like, oh, I work, and I like doing the work that I'm doing. So it's kind of hard to draw that line, but I'm getting better at it. It is a, work in progress. And, there are times where, okay, like last night's a good example, literally editing and working on things. So I actually just released a podcast too. I don't know if you know that.
I saw on your Instagram. That's super exciting.
Yeah, I've been doing it for like a month. So I totally relate to all the stuff you were saying about that. But yeah, I was editing podcast titles and descriptions yesterday at 10 o'clock at night. So it's like there just is not always that clear line. And it's something that I am definitely working on being better about, because the one thing I will say is being able, and it goes back to that idea of filling your own cup instead of just give. And I've absolutely, over the past 2 years, had that moment and had those feelings of burnout. And it's okay. You're human. You will tap back into that love and inspiration for whatever it is you're doing. But burnout is real. Mm-hmm. And it is a sign that you are not taking that time to refill your own cup. And so I have at different times experienced it at different levels. And again, I've always been able to come back to the love for it. It's not like I'm like, oh, I just have ruined yoga now because, I've turned it into my business. Absolutely not. It is still something that is so, so dear to my heart and always will be. But it's just that reminder that is just a sign from our body that we need to fill our cup. And having a little bit stronger boundaries between that work-life balance and sticking to them the very best that you can is going to go a long way. And I really, truly feel, again, I've only been doing this for a couple of weeks now, I think. I don't know. I'm losing track of time. You know this, girl. I'm losing track of time, actually. So
I know. It's like we're in like a time vortex with this quarantine.
Right? What is happening? So I guess I don't really know how long I've been doing this. I think it's been a couple of weeks, but I have absolutely noticed and felt a energetic shift in my business and how I show up for my business from purposely taking time for myself in the morning and at night. Mm-hmm. and doing and kind of having that boundary where I say, because again, a lot of people at night when they get home from work, they go on Instagram and scroll on their phone. Well, Instagram is my business. So I don't go to Instagram just for leisure, really, because as soon as I get on there, it's like, oh, I've got messages to respond to. I've got comments. I've got this. I should edit that. and it just goes down this wormhole. So I've been trying really hard to kind of step away from that and find some other things that I can do. So I've been, I read all the time, but I've been like trying to read more. So, and I'm still getting my Kindle screen time, but it's not my phone just mindlessly going through things. Or I've, like I said, been getting really into breath work and meditation. So I'll start to do that in the evening, or like I say, I always do that in the morning, doing that in the evening instead of just mindlessly scrolling my phone, and journaling, doing all the good things that, we want to do, we want to make time for. I'm really trying to cut myself off from the time spent in my business, kind of not productively in my business, and just really giving myself that space to refill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's so important. I think that it's so important for progressing our business forward, for finding creativity, and like you said, making sure that you're always pouring from a full cup. So yeah, it's definitely a work in progress, but I love hearing that you've had some success with it and that you're continuing to work on it and take weekends for yourself. It's important for us as business owners.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think too, again, it can feel very scary kind of stepping away from things, but I think you'll be amazed, or at least I can say I've been really amazed at how things have, again, how I'm showing up in a different way. And I think in a more impactful and more powerful way. So I think ultimately, sometimes we think grinding, like pushing those limits, always being turned on and in it. It's like, I think that can also sometimes backfire. And at least that's what I'm starting to experience.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with that. So yeah, it's a good reminder that we need to take time for ourselves and take breaks and give ourselves some balance. So I appreciate that reminder. It's important for me to remember that too. So thank you for that.
For sure.
I could literally keep you on the phone all day. I just have loved this conversation, Mary, and I'm so appreciative of your time. If people want to learn more about you, if they want to follow you on Instagram, download your app, where can they go to find all of that?
Absolutely. So Instagram is definitely the best way to get in touch with me. And it is at Mary Oschner, MaryOschner. And I share tons and tons of yoga tutorials, beginner yoga tutorials. If you're just trying to add more yoga to your life in general, it is really an excellent resource for all of that. You can also find my app, which is just Mary Oschner Yoga, and it's in the Google Store and the Apple App Store. So it's both places there. And then, like I said, I also have a podcast now, which is called Her Vibe is Pretty. And it's all about teaching women how to grow and evolve into like a higher version of themselves. So for me, I kind of say it's like my yoga off the mat portion. We're not talking about yoga really on the app or on the podcast at all, but it's just another great resource to just, again, create this beautiful life, this beautiful existence that we all have, and just make the most of it. So those are really the best ways to get in touch. Yeah.
Amazing. I will make sure there's links to all of that in the show notes. And thank you so much for this conversation. It's been great chatting with you.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It has been an honor to be here, and I'm so excited to hear kind of the takeaways that your audience has from this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone, that's the episode with Mary Oschner. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did and that you learned a thing or two. Now, we have a 10-minute behind the scenes episode with Mary where she talks deeper about how she chose the people she worked with on the app and then how she launched it. So if you're looking to get into the nitty gritty of app building, this episode is going to be great for you. You can head on over to patreon.com/MBOM yoga, MBOM yoga, and get that episode. So once again, it's patreon.com/MBOM yoga. All right. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Namaste. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of the podcast. To find links, notes, resources, and everything mentioned in today and all episodes of the show, you can head on over to mbomyoga.com. You can find the podcast and myself on Facebook and social media at Mastering the Business of Yoga. And I would love for you to join the private Facebook community, Yoga Business Badass.